In an effort to spread autism acceptance, we wanted to get questions from the community answered by autistic individuals and their families. This video will cover a variety of questions being answered by 3 families. Our first family is the Parham family, being represented by Sebastian. Sebastian is the oldest of 3 boys who are all on the spectrum. Our second family responses are from Jacob, who is 13, and his mom Stacy. And our final family responses are from a 21-year-old female who we will refer to as Lucy, and her mom.
This is take 7 and of my autism acceptance speech. Okay. Hey, had to get that out of the way. Anyways, hey, I'm Sebastian Parham. I'm Mrs. Parham's son. I'm autistic, just like my brothers. So I think I know what I'm talking about when I talk about this. We're talking about autism today and how to deal with it.
What is one thing you want people to know about autism?
It's hard to put autism into words, but here's a basic rundown. First things first, you can't lump all autistic kids into one group because it's a spectrum and there's no definitive cause for it. What a spectrum is, basically think of a rainbow. How there's a spectrum of colors. Hers, right? That's basically autism, except there's hundreds more horse colors.
Lucy replied, even when someone cannot talk, they could be very intelligent and gifted in many other areas. Lucy's mom wants you to know that despite the many challenges of having a disability, a person with autism brings a tremendous amount of joy to the people who know and understand them. Jacob and Stacy think everyone should know that autism is not a disease. Autism is a developmental disability within the brain. There are different severity levels. Society should treat everyone as equals. Children and adults with autism have feelings just like everyone else. We need to accept, not discriminate. What was your first indication that your child might be on the spectrum? Stacy reported at the age of 15 months, I started to notice my son's speech was not progressing. In fact, he was regressing. The words he did say were simply just gone. He did not wave to anyone. While in part-time daycare, he always wanted to be by himself. His sleep was almost non-existent. I knew something was not right. Lucy's mom relayed that she completely withdrew from everyone, even though she had formerly been very interactive. She did not meet any babbling or speech milestones. Her play was very ritualistic, would line everything up. She was extremely food averse and still is. Her behavior was out of control. We have an older son, and my gut told me that she was just very different than he was, starting at about 16 months. We began early intervention and had several different therapies each week. One thing led to another, and she was diagnosed at 26 months. What did you think when your child was diagnosed? How did you feel initially, and how has that changed over time? I was devastated. The doctor who diagnosed her said that there was nothing that could be done for that child, and that I would need a lot of counseling. I cried for a few days, and then we went to work to prove that doctor wrong. And we have done just that. Through a lot of hard work and patience and determination and great support, she is a happy and content young woman. Looking at how she is now compared to how she was then is truly remarkable. Response from Lucy's mom. What advice do you have for someone with a new ASD diagnosis? How do I get help with an autistic child? Lucy's mom responded stating, find a good primary care physician or pediatrician who has a lot of experience with autistic patients. We recommend Dr. Eric Madron. Also have the PCP recommend a neurologist who is experienced with autism. Research applied behavioral analysis or ABA therapy. There are numerous ABA centers and or individuals who will come to you. Of course, some are better than others. Ask for references and speak to another parent whose child has had success with that particular center or therapist. Even though some say that you should do 40 hours of ABA therapy a week, any amount is better than none at all. We started with just a few hours a week. Although there are different schools of thought on therapies for autistic children, ABA was life-changing for us. We had done a host of different therapies and nothing produced many results until we started ABA. Progress can be very slow, but if you don't see small positive changes in a short period of time, you may not have the right ABA therapist. Explore therapeutic recreation activities that may be appropriate for your child. Remember that these amazing professionals have dealt with many other children with the same challenges and that your child will be in great hands with them. I remember the days when I thought my child was just too much to handle. Nope. Start researching education right away. Contact the appropriate department in your city, depending on the age of your child. Early intervention is for up to age 3, preschool assessment for ages 2 to 5, or special education over the age of 5. Stacy had similar answers. She recommends, I cannot preach enough about early intervention. I have been at this since my son was diagnosed at the age of 2 years and 2 months. Parents need to educate themselves as much as possible. Parents need to advocate for their child. Depending on the severity of the ASD, you should build a team for your child. Find the right doctor for your child that specializes in autism. Having a regular doctor and a neurologist, I feel, is a must. If it is necessary, which most likely it will be, then bring on board speech and occupational therapists. Applied behavioral analysis is a huge part of therapy for a child with ASD. I do not know what I would have done without them. You also need to find the right school program and make sure your child's IEP is customized to what your child needs, not what someone else thinks it should say. Reach out to support groups and associations that have a ton of information of programs you could be eligible for. What are some challenges seen by someone with autism? Lucy's greatest challenge has been acceptance from the world around us. When a disability is not visible in a photograph, many people just don't understand and are not equipped to show compassion. That has changed some, but we have a whole lot further to go.
Some kids have different levels of autism. Some kids may have an I don't have great social skills problem, while others, it can affect their learning and social emotional health. We get upset because we are not understood, or we are understood but people take it the wrong way. For example, sometimes I'll monologue in a group when I don't understand what's going on. Basically, I can't read the room. Most of the time, kids don't actually talk about what I'm doing in front of me, but they tell their friends and tend to avoid me. Sometimes it's hard to work in a group setting because some kids with autism are scared of being ridiculed. Another thing that kind of bothers us sometimes is changes to our schedule. It's agitating when people switch up things really fast without telling us first. For example, when there's a sub, it breaks up my sense of what I'm used to. I tend to think about how my day's going to go before I get to school. So if there's a sub without any warning, I'm going to freak out. Sounds kind of reasonable, right? You know why? Because it wasn't in my plan. Also, some of us have problems focusing on things specifically. Like, I'm not exactly focusing on the script. It can be as simple as you can't look someone in the eyes for long. True that. Or I'm in my own little world. I don't like looking people in the eye because it just doesn't feel right. It makes me uncomfortable and on edge. So usually I look down at their shoes instead. I don't really go into my own little world, but my brother, who's also on the spectrum, does. When he's in the zone, he doesn't really notice the world around him.
What has been the biggest achievement or success for you or your child? Lucy's mom reported their biggest achievement was overcoming behavior issues. In the early years, when our daughter could not communicate her needs and wants, and we did not know how to communicate with her either, it led to great frustration for her. The only response that she knew was to act out. It was not pretty. No, not pretty at all. After a lot of ABA therapy, hard work, and maturity, there's very little that sets her off today. Huge, huge, huge. Lucy answered, I am a great worker because I like to do everything correctly and I like to and must finish all of my work. I am a visual learner. Once someone has demonstrated a task several times, I can then do it on my own correctly and always finish the tasks that are given to me. As a matter of fact, I worked for a company as part of my high school community-based instruction. That company recognized my strengths and work ethic, and I will return to volunteer for them when I graduate from high school. Do you have any special interests? If so, what are they? Yes, puzzles. I do a 300-piece puzzle every day. Response from Lucy.
We tend to get hyper-focused on things that interest us, even though they may not interest anyone else. Sometimes I try to talk to my mom about history a lot, but she's not really interested in a lot of history like that. And I tend to study and make my own theories about why things happened in history and what caused them.
What is the biggest strength or gift that autism has given you? Stacy answered for both of them, stating, I believe the answer for both of us is one word, love. My son was always brought up with a lot of love and understanding. No matter how tough some days were, he was always shown what it feels like to be loved regardless of his disability. On the worst days, or sometimes weeks, I still showed him how much he was loved and that I was always by his side. 13 years later, I can truly say my son has a heart of gold. He knows no bad. He just wants to love the world, smile, and be happy. We should all learn from his sweetness. Lucy echoed the sentiment with saying, I have taught so many people what unconditional love really means. If you hang out with a friend that doesn't have autism, what are some activities you like to do that are enjoyable for both of you? Lots of things. To name a few, we can both enjoy a visit to the aquarium, go to a movie, take a walk in the park or on the beach, play a game of concentration, or work on a puzzle together. Response from Lucy. How has COVID affected your day-to-day routines or social interactions? Like everyone else, we have had to establish new routines. I like routines, and it does not take long for me to form a new one. Plus, I got to do the leisure activities that I love, computer and puzzles especially, a whole lot more, so that was just fine by me. Response by Lucy. What advice do you have for interacting with someone on the spectrum?
Here are some tips that will help you understand autistic kids. It won't work for all of them. Yeah, there's a lot. So please don't try using it on all of them. It won't work. But it will work for many. Number 1, help them read the room. It's hard for us autistic kids to pick up. We get obsessed with other stuff, so if everybody stops talking and we're still talking, just tap us on the shoulder and whisper something like, hey, the teacher said it's time for us to stop talking, so let's listen. And we'll probably stop. Probably. Some other autistic kids get kind of touchy about that. Anyways, number 2, don't insult us. We tend to get hypersensitive about that kind of stuff. You might be playing, but sometimes we don't know how to tell the difference. Number 3, don't assume autism is a bad thing. Think about it with an open mind. Just because someone has autism doesn't make someone weird. Be upfront. Tip number 4, be upfront. Tell them when you're just not interested. We don't like it when you sugarcoat things. Basically, if you don't know what sugarcoating is, it's basically trying to tell you something lightly and not just getting straight down to earth with it. Final whole tip, number 5. We're not aliens. Treat us like normal human beings, just like you. We're just a bit different. The cool thing about being autistic is we tend to see the world in a different way. Sometimes we are able to make cool new things or offer different ideas that you probably would not think about, or give your insight or new perspective on not project, but subject. I love being autistic. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Yeah. Well, mission accomplished, and it only took me 7 takes. See ya!
Thank you to our participating families for answering our questions. We hope you have enjoyed this video and have learned something about autism. Should you have any further questions, or if you are interested in using inclusion services or participating in therapeutic recreation programs, please visit us on the web at www.vbgov.com/inclusion or www.vbgov.com/TR.